So I'm a big fan of the phrase, buy once, cry once. And this goes for all aspects of life, especially when it comes to buying gear for my filmmaking business. And because of that, I'm a huge proponent in buying and investing in gear that is just gonna be worthwhile. I don't wanna spend lots of money buying stuff that's cheap or has compromises that won't get the job done and I'll have to replace it later on. I'd rather fork up the money, pay that price tag, and get something with zero compromises that's gonna make everything smoother, cleaner, easier, and honestly just give me a nicer workflow on set, making sure I get the job done in a smooth fashion. And today I wanna walk you guys through one of my favorite purchases I've ever made, and it also happens to be the best cage system I've ever used for any camera. And it is the Bright Tangerine Leftfield system, and I've spent almost a year with this camera cage, and it's been absolutely incredible working with it. And I wanna share with you guys everything I have in this kit, the reasons why I have it, and just my overall thoughts of the last year of shooting and working with the system. It all kind of goes back to when I first started working with the C70. I was working with Samuel Elkins, doing stuff for his YouTube channel, most notably the field trips episodes, which were an absolute joy to work on. But with that camera kit, we didn't run any camera cage, any external power, no external monitors. We primarily just ran the camera with a built-in battery, RF2470, the stock OEM top handle, and then kind of a jerry-rig setup to get wireless audio as well as my shotgun microphone on there. And when you look at the Canon C70, there's no mounting holes on there besides the mounting hole for the top handle. And the top handle is kind of lacking. It just feels weird. It has like a sandpapery kind of texture, and it just doesn't really offer up a clean and minimal and streamlined setup to mount an external monitor or audio. There are mounting holes on the side of the top handle to put the Canon shock mount for the shotgun microphone, which was nice because it opened up the cold shoe, and I could use this little cold shoe 3-in-1 adapter to get my wireless audio on there. And it wasn't really the most streamlined or really easy to work with, but it got the job done. We didn't have the budget or need to invest in camera cages and build out this entire kit because we need to keep a minimal profile, get the footage, get the audio. It was just kind of like a run and gun setup, so it wasn't really necessary to get a camera cage. But fast forward to a little over a year ago when I bought the C70 for myself, I knew in my head that I was starting to get my foot in the door with smaller to mid-sized sets where I knew I needed V-mount power, an external monitor, wireless video, even maybe a follow focus, and I knew that running the C70 bare bones wasn't going to get the job done in the way I wanted it to. In my mind, I'm investing all this money into the gear that I'm going to be using to make money and keep clients, make new clients, and just make better work. So I'm not making any compromises in the gear that I'm investing in. So why would I make compromises in the camera cage that I'm going to eventually invest into? So that's where Bright Tangerine comes into play. I think I bought these accessories back in December or January of last year. So pretty much like 1 to 2 months after I bought the C70. And I knew I needed them immediately because I had a couple big jobs coming up that it would have been really nice to have it on. I know I could have gotten the job done without those in some sense, but it would have just looked completely dumb having this giant monitor on the stock top handle, having just no V-mount. So I'm constantly charging the BP batteries, which they do last a while, but having the V-mount just gives a lot of peace of mind. And I can also power my external monitor through there. And honestly, it just looks more professional. And I know that's kind of like a dumb, fleeting thing, but the image of your camera package really does matter. If you have this really messy rig that doesn't really make sense or feel streamlined, it kind of like shows on you. So for me, like I wanted everything just to be completely dialed, and that's pretty much what Bright Tangerine did for me. And I know you might be looking at Bright Tangerine right now, and I know it's extremely expensive, and I'm not trying to push you to buy it if you're not a creative professional. Even if you're a beginning creative professional and you're getting some bigger jobs, if you don't have the budget for it, do not get into debt because of a camera cage. But if you find yourself on smaller to bigger sets where you're working with more crew or you need more accessories, most notably wireless video and V-mount and external monitors, it could be worth it to spend the price tag that Bright Tangerine asks for, because it quite simply is, spoiler alert, the best camera cage for the Canon C70. So the kit that I picked up from Bright Tangerine was the Leftfield 2 system. Right now they have Leftfield 3, which I don't really know the changes that they made, but I'm pretty sure you can't go wrong with either. So I got the base kit, which gives you the top plate, the side plate, and then a bottom plate that attaches to the 15mm base plate. It also gives you a quick release dovetail to mount to your tripod plate. I got the Bright Tangerine NATO top handle, which is the best NATO top handle I've ever used. It's extremely comfortable. I also got the C70 Bright Tangerine HDMI HDMI clamp to make sure my HDMI stays in place and doesn't break. I also picked up the DJI riser, which we'll definitely get into that later on. And then I also picked up some 9-inch stainless steel rods just because I knew I was gonna be running heavy V-mounts, heavy lenses, and I didn't really want to go for aluminum or carbon fiber. I just wanted something super strong, and personally, I don't really mind the weight of those. A handful of months after I bought all this, I also picked up the 12-inch rods just because I was running some bigger lenses like the Tokinas and DZO zooms, and unfortunately, they are extremely long, so you need longer rods to get the lens support farther out. So when it comes to building out your C70 with this cage system, it couldn't be any easier. The top plate lines up with the cold shoe mount, and you just screw it into the top, and then the side plate mounts into the top plate off the side. You bolt that in, and there are absolutely no wiggles on that, and it's extremely sturdy. It does get a little weird though with the base kit because the bottom plate mounts into the side plate. So you're mounting it into the bottom of the camera as well as the side plate, which means you're completely locked into having that base plate on there, which personally I'm not the biggest fan of because one, you're locked into having the bottom plate with the 15mm base plate, which adds more bulk and weight. And if I want to run a minimal and cleaner setup, I am locked into that, and then I have to take the plate off, and then now I have no bottom plate and then a weird loose side plate. So I ran the setup for a little while because I spent all my money on the cage system, which was fine. But as I started to do a little bit more research, I found a better way to get this entire system a lot cleaner. And that's where the DJI base plate comes into play. So the DJI riser mounts into the bottom of the camera as well as the side plate of the Bright Tangerine system. So now it's completely all sealed together, and the DJI riser is a Manfrotto plate. So now it's a quick release system. And the DJI riser base plate, you mount onto your 15mm base plate, and now you have a quick release system on top of the base plate that was originally bolted in to the bottom of your camera. So now if I want to go from minimal, I just take the camera off, and now I have a Manfrotto plate, which I could throw on any Manfrotto tripod. And this is my go-to setup because now I just have everything all there. The cage is fully locked in, and I can mount it to any tripod, I can mount any accessories to it, and I know it's gonna be sturdy. But when it's time to add in some rods and my quick release base plate, I simply slide it in, lock it down, and then now I have full access to my rods for V-mount and follow focus, and also the dovetail underneath to get on and off a tripod extremely quick. So that in itself is the absolute cheat code to this Bright Tangerine system, and I kind of wish they included the DJI riser just standard in their base kit because I think a lot of people would prefer it. I understand why they separate it. It adds a bit more money on our end, but personally it's made this entire system way more streamlined than just simply buying the base kit and having that weird base plate system that mounts into the bottom of the camera. But yeah, having the DJI riser has made a huge difference in my workflow. Again, it's made it just so easy to go from minimal to semi setup to full rig, and just this entire system is so streamlined and just really easy to set up and tear down. I love that the top plate has a NATO rail on there because I can use my NATO top handle, which is super quick to take on and off. I will never use bolt-on top handles again unless it's for like the Red Komodo or something. NATO is where it's at. It is extremely strong, and I've had no issues with it over the last year. I have this nicey rig NATO rail cold shoe setup thing that I throw on the very far right side of the NATO rail on the top plate, and that allows me to throw my microphone shock mount on there and get it all the way to the side so it's completely out of the way, and then I can just run my microphone cable all around into the input. And having that NATO rail is clutch because my microphone sits low and all the way out of the way, whereas with the stock C70 top handle, the microphone was right next to the top handle, which was weird to grip the top of it, which makes no sense. But then it was also either too high, and then even when it was underslung, it just felt a little too crammed. So that NATO rail extending pretty much all the way over towards the on and off switch is perfect. There's also tons of mounting holes on there from 1/4 to 3/8 to QD, but the 1/4 are clutch because I have the sprig and then the Mondo ties to really keep everything nice and tidy with my cables, and just having all these mounting holes all over the place just makes it really easy to channel cables through and keep them tight to the rig. Another major benefit that I found recently about the 1/4 is that I can mount my little small rig friction arm and get my little monitor out to the side where it's not completely on top and super top heavy. I haven't really done this with my small HD702 Touch because that monitor is a little bit too big and heavy, but I recently picked up the Cine 5, which I think is the perfect size for an FX3 or Canon C70, and when that's on the friction arm down below underneath the handle, it's honestly pretty comfortable holding the camera like that because it's out of the way, it's not top heavy, and it's pretty comfortable pulling focus and viewing my image on there rather than having it on the top of my cold shoe mount on the top handle. The HDMI clamp is also extremely clutch. It does get a little finicky with the little door to the HDMI port, so I usually just rip that that out because when I fold it underneath the rig, it gets in the way of the little thumb screw for the quick release for the DJI riser. You just have to line up the far left edge of the HDMI clamp to the end of your HDMI cable. If you don't do that and you start screwing it in, you'll definitely bend your cable and eventually bend your port. So you want to make sure your cable is straight, line up the clamp with that, bolt it into the side of the camera cage, and then start tightening in the little clamp from the far right side, and voila, now you have an HDMI cable that is completely locked in. The Bright Tangerine rods are also really clutch too because they're extremely strong and they don't bend at all. So every time I pull focus or mount a lens support for a heavy lens or my V-mount off the back, there's no really sense of insecurity with it because I know they're locked in and solid, and it's going to support all the weight that I have on my camera rig as well. But yeah, overall life with the Bright Tangerine Leftfield system has been incredible. It's made every bit of my workflow so much easier, going from weddings to social media shoots to bringing my camera out to shoot YouTube stuff to smaller commercial stuff to bigger commercial stuff. This cage does not slow down and it just meshes so well with all my camera systems, and it allows me to have the versatility and rigging that I really need to get the job done. Everything from the top handle to the top plate, side plate, base plate, DJI riser, the rods, everything is just so well built, well designed. It just feels like the perfect extension of my C70. So much so that I have never taken the cage off my camera. The first time I'll be taking it off since I bought it will be pretty much today for filming B-roll of the bare C70, which is just crazy because on my FX3, I'm forever taking off my tilt cage because there's times where it's just too bulky and it's not really fun to carry around. I'm extremely happy with it, and if you're someone like me who finds themselves doing a whole variety of different jobs from weddings to small commercials, social media, YouTube, and if you find yourself needing a reliable, well-designed, robust cage and all the other offerings on the market just don't really seem like worth the hassle to invest into, it's well worth the money investing into the system. Again, I have never taken the cage off of my camera. I've just taken accessories off here and there depending on my needs, and I think that says a lot to Bright Tangerine as a company, to how they design their products. The designs from Bright Tangerine clearly show that they've been around the block, they have experience as filmmakers, and everything's just in the right spot. It allows you to click all the buttons that you need, and they give you everything you need without extra fluff taken away from just the beauty of the cameras that they're designing these cages for. They fit in seamlessly from any rig that you have, and yeah, the only downside is the price. It's a little crazy, but I think if you're doing this for work, you're making money, and you just want just everything to work and have nothing break or wiggle or jeopardize your footage or your experience on set, invest in Bright Tangerine. Thank me later. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about the Bright Tangerine cage or the C70 or anything, feel free to leave them down below. I forgot to mention this earlier. This video was unpaid, unmotivated from Bright Tangerine. This is just my own personal review on a camera cage that I've had a joy and a great time working with. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.